Dead and Gone, but Not Forgotten. Little mini-series. Part 3, The Voices That Will Never Be Replaced. The Irreplaceable Ones. So a great guitarist could shred and a drummer can blast, but a vocalist is the soul of a band. Some voices are so powerful and unique, and irreplaceable, that when they're gone, it feels like a piece of metal history disappears with them. Welcome back to Headbangers History. This is where we honor the fallen legends of rock and metal. In part 3 of our Gone Too Soon series, we're going to dive into the voices that define generations. The ones we lost but will never forget. Welcome to Headbangers History, where riffs reign supreme and legends are born. Let's dive into the heart-pounding history of hard rock and heavy metal. So number 1 topping this list is Freddie Mercury, who died in 1991. The greatest frontman ever? Possibly. Was Freddie Mercury a metal singer? No, but did he influence every rock and metal vocalist after him? Absolutely. His range, his operatic power, and his ability to command a stage were completely unmatched.
Every day,
The biggest impact was his voice set the standard for a dynamic theatrical rock with metal vocals, in my opinion. Some of his famous tracks, Bohemian Rhapsody, We Are the Champions, Somebody to Love, and numerous others. With his cause of death listed as complications from AIDS in London, 1991.
Freddie Mercury, the flamboyant frontman of the veteran British band Queen, died Sunday in his West London mansion. He died peacefully at age 45 of bronchopneumonia brought on by AIDS. Mercury had lived as a recluse the last 2 years and made no public appearances earlier this year to promote Queen's last album, Innuendo. His death came just 1 day after he issued a statement to the press confirming that he had AIDS, ending many months.
Would he have collaborated with metal bands if he had lived? Let's just imagine Freddie singing with Iron Maiden or Judas Priest. I could see it. Number 2 is Lane Staley, the great Lane Staley. Who died in 2002. He was the voice of pain and darkness. Lane Staley's haunting, raw, and sorrow-filled voice gave Alice in Chains its signature sound. He was a singer who made you feel every lyric, and his duality of harmonies and gut-wrenching screams definitely influenced generations of rock and metal bands. His biggest impact was helping define the dark, sludgy side of grunge that blended into the metal scene. Some of the famous tracks are Man in the Box, Rooster, Nutshell. Cause of death was a drug overdose in Seattle in 2002.
Hey, I'm Ian Robinson with MTV News. The rock world lost one of its more honest voices this weekend when Alice in Chains frontman Lane Staley was found dead in his Seattle home on Friday. He was 34. Seattle police say they responded to a call from one of Staley's relatives asking them to check on his well-being since he hadn't been seen in 2 weeks. Police then discovered a body, later identified as Staley, that had been deceased for at least a few days, surrounded by intravenous drug paraphernalia. Exact time and cause of death are still being...
But what if Lane had gone heavier? Would Alice in Chains have become a full-blown metal band? We'll never know. Number 3, the late great Ronnie James Dio. Who died in 2010. He's the godfather of metal vocals. If there's one voice that metalheads respect, it's Ronnie James Dio. His operatic power, mythical lyrics, and larger-than-life presence, it made him one of the most beloved figures in metal history. His biggest impact was creating the metal horns, gesture that I use and you use, and it set the standard for powerful metal vocals. Some of the famous tracks of Holy Diver, Rainbow in the Dark, Heaven and Hell. Many others. His cause of death was cancer in Houston, 2010.
Ronnie James Dio, who was raised in Cortland, New York, will have a public memorial service on Sunday, May 30th at 2 p.m. at the Hall of Liberty, located at Forest Lawn, Hollywood Hills, 6300 Forest Lawn Drive in LA. This will be a celebration of the life and music of Ronnie James.
But would Dio have been making albums in his 80s? Given his energy, I think he would have. And then the sad story of Chris Cornell. Died in 2017. He was the golden voice of rock. Chris Cornell wasn't just a singer, he was a vocal god. His range from soulful lows to raw primal screams, it made him one of the most versatile rock singers ever. His biggest impact was influencing both grunge and heavy metal vocalists.
It's a grunge thing. Grunge.
From Corey Taylor to Miles Kennedy. Some of the famous tracks, Black Hole Sun, Like a Stone, Cochise. His cause of death was suicide in Detroit in 2017.
This morning, the music world is remembering grunge rock pioneer Chris Cornell. Cornell died unexpectedly late last night. He was in Detroit and he was 52 years old. His music career spanned more than 3 decades and he performed with a number of bands. This video is believed to be from his final show last night in Detroit, just hours before his death. Anthony Mason is here with a look at how Cornell changed rock music.
But what if Soundgarden had gone heavier in their later years? Would we have seen Cornell front a metal band? And then there's Chester Bennington. He died in 2017. He was a modern metal icon. Chester Bennington was one of the most versatile metal vocalists of the 2000s. His ability to switch between emotional melodies and then gut-wrenching screams definitely made him a defining voice of a generation. His biggest impact was blending nu metal aggression with emotional vulnerability. It influenced a wave of post-metalcore bands. Some of the famous tracks of In the End, Numb, Crawling. His cause of death was suicide in California in 2017.
Amy, good morning. Chester Bennington was just 41, the lead vocalist for Linkin Park for nearly 2 decades, an extraordinary singer-songwriter, and fans are now pointing to his own lyrics for clues about that personal struggle. They're one of the most popular bands in the world.
But would Chester have fronted a full-on metal band in the future? He definitely had the range and the ability to take on any of the genres, in my opinion. Who do you think had the most unforgettable voice? It's different for all of us, but each of these vocalists defined an era, a sound, a feeling. Their voices were all unique, powerful, irreplaceable in my opinion, and even though they're gone, their music still lives on. Which fallen vocalist do you think had the most legendary voice? Let's debate it in the comments below. And next up, we got the underground and the overlooked legends. The people I believe deserve more recognition. We've covered the big names, but what about the ones who never got their due respect? In part 4, we'll shine a light on the underrated legends like Chuck Schuldiner, Pete Steele, Alexi Leo, and the ones whose impact was massive but whose names don't always get the credit that they deserve. Who do you think is the most underrated fallen metal legend? Let's talk. See you again tomorrow. This is Headbangers History. Welcome to Headbangers History. where riffs reign supreme and legends are born. Let's dive into the heart-pounding history of hard rock and heavy metal.